Hey, high school literacy leaders, welcome back to Curriculum Chats. This is DLC Foster Yankee, and in this video, I'll be discussing lessons 4 and 5 in the second section of the In the Time of the Butterflies unit. Beginning with lesson 4. In this lesson, students will use text evidence and original commentary to support an evaluative response about Chapter 5. They'll defend or challenge their peers' claims using relevant text evidence from Chapter 5, as well as evaluate how the historical context of setting influences the plot, characterization, and theme in Chapter 5. The text for this lesson is In the Time of the Butterflies, and the materials are the Forming Evidence-Based Claims tool, the Historical Lens Note-Taking tool, Vocabulary Journal, and the Section 2 question set. For the lesson overview, we will use the historical lens to form and evaluate claims about Chapter 5 of the text. And there are 4 activities in this lesson, the first of which is optional. So beginning with the optional activity, the class reviews the historical lens note-taking tool and discusses the questions on the screen. What have you learned about the historical lens thus far? How does the text affect your view of the historical events or circumstances? How does your background knowledge on the events or circumstance affect your experience with and understanding of the text? In the next activity, students work in small groups and write the guiding question, how does the text reflect the time in which the novel is set, in the guiding question section of their Forming Evidence-Based Claims tool. Focusing specifically on Chapter 5, they find key details in the text that highlight the historical context of the novel and answer the guiding question. Analyze each detail by explaining how it connects to the guiding question and explain the connections among all the details. How do they work together to tell the reader something about the time in which the novel is set? And finally, form their claim by stating a conclusion that answers the guiding question and takes into account the details they have chosen. This activity challenges students' abilities to view literary texts through a specific lens or viewpoint, which is an important process for students to master because it allows them to work through the process of examining text through viewpoints other than their own. Students will collect a set of 4 details and examine how these details display the impact of the historical context on the novel and the plot. To support students, the teacher should help students fully understand the importance of this chapter as a turning point for Dee Dee. She truly struggles between wanting to help her sisters and avoiding danger. The teacher might consider modeling this process by adding the first 2 details to the Forming Evidence-Based Claims tool before having students add the other 2 independently. They might also allow students to complete this activity in pairs or small groups. For activity 3, each group will need either a piece of chart paper, butcher paper, or a shared electronic document where they can write their group's claim. Under the claim, in a bulleted list, they will write the details they selected as support for their claim. Once all claims and details have been posted, the groups read one another's claims and discuss the question on the screen in their small group. Does this claim and its details clearly state how the text reflects the time in which it is set? And, if developed into an essay, which claim would I find interesting to read? Next, the students use those same questions to help them individually vote on the top 2 claims. Afterward, the class discusses their votes, responding to the question, which claim is the strongest and why? This lesson concludes with students reading pages 84 through 99 of Chapter 6, Minerva 1949, annotating the text for the questions on the screen from the Section 2 question set as they read, or responding to the questions in their learning log. They also add new or interesting words they encounter to their vocabulary journals. This is a very significant chapter in terms of events that set many things in motion. We learn that rumors are circulating about Minerva because she chose to live at home longer than expected. This reveals a lot about the traditional nature of Dominican society and what was expected of women at this time. Papa is also having an affair and actually has other children with the woman. It is Minerva who uncovers this secret. We also get an up close look at Rafael Trujillo, who, until this point, has been a distant character mostly developed through rumors and gossip. During the dance, Trujillo's behavior begins to show the sisters that many of the stories are true. Minerva's actions and responses to Trujillo's advances also serve as a catalyst for events depicted throughout the rest of the novel. The teacher might assign this activity for homework or begin the next lesson with students reading and discussing Chapter 6 in class. The teacher might also read this section out loud as a class or have students read it independently. However, they want to be sure to check for understanding with students after the dance scene. They might struggle to fully grasp the implications and connotations of Trujillo's and Minerva's language choices. An example of some of those language choices are provided in the teaching notes. So, our cup for lesson 4 is students will know how the text reflects the time in which the novel is set. They will understand how the historical context of setting influences the plot, characterization, and theme in chapter 5. And they'll be able to form and evaluate claims about how the text reflects the time in which the novel is set using the forming evidence based claims tool. Moving on to lesson 5. Students will interact within the time of the butterflies in meaningful ways, such as note taking or free writing, evaluate Alvarez's purpose, audience, and message within Chapter 6, and critique and evaluate how Alvarez's use of language in Chapter 6 informs and shapes the perception of readers. And again, our text is in the time of the butterflies. The materials for this lesson are the biographical lens note taking tool, vocabulary journal, word map, word sorts, open and closed, and the academic discussion reference guide. For the lesson overview, we will read the beginning of Chapter 6, Minerva, 1949, and study the biographical literary criticism lens. Then we will take details from our reading and analyze them using the biographical lens. And again, we have 4 activities, the first of which is optional. So, beginning with the optional activity, students join with small groups and compare the words they wrote down in their vocabulary journals at the end of the previous lesson. One word is selected from each group's vocabulary journal and used to respond to vocabulary exercises, which I always suggest turning into a choice board. Next, the class creates a mind map to share and connect everything they know about the author of the novel. As students share answers during the discussion, they consider the question on the screen. What do you know about Julia Alvarez's history, family, and life? Then they meet with a partner to share their mind maps. In order for students to fully grasp the biographical lens, they must activate their prior knowledge of the author, the novel's time period, and the people associated with the novel. Students did some research on Alvarez in Section 1, which hopefully was saved on anchor charts or in their learning logs and should be a resource for this activity. But the teacher might consider having them conduct more research on Alvarez's life if they need more information to prepare for the subsequent activities where they use the biographical lens to analyze the novel. Next, the teacher introduces the key features of the biographical literary criticism lens, and students take notes in their biographical lens note taking tool. To support students, the teacher might share notes on biographical analysis with students orally or by displaying them in front of the classroom. The biographical lens requires students to have some base knowledge about the author's life before examining the text for impact. It is important for students to use this lens while reading In the Time of the Butterflies because of Julia Alvarez's close connection to the Dominican Republic and her personal experiences with life under the Trujillo regime. Students should use this tool as a home base for guiding their work with the biographical lens. They will return to this tool several times throughout the next 2 lessons. For this lesson's final activity, students examine an excerpt of the novel through the biographical lens. In the first row of their biographical lens note taking tool, they write the following quote from the text: "He grins a naughty grin, a woman with a mind of her own. So you want to study in the capital A," from page 99. Then they listen as the teacher models how to analyze the text through the biographical lens. Next, students work with either a partner or a small group to choose another quote or section of the text to analyze through the biographical lens before sharing their analysis with the class. To support students, the teacher might have a sample analysis displayed in front of the class as they model the process. There are some think aloud notes in the teaching notes for how the teacher might model how to think through the biographical lens with students. So, our cup for lesson 5 is students will know the key features of the biographical literary criticism lens. They'll understand the influence of the author's history, family, and life on the novel, and be able to analyze an excerpt from the novel through the biographical lens using the biographical lens note taking tool. So that's the wrap for this video. I welcome your feedback and look forward to hearing from you either on Twitter, via email, or in the comments. While you're here, don't forget to subscribe so you never have to worry about missing a video. Thanks for watching.